Cowboys versus Giants on Thanksgiving, and there is a lot to talk about. We'll dive into the Cowboys players to watch, including Micah Parsons, because Mike Zimmer's experiment worked perfectly. Here we go. What is up, everyone, and welcome into A to Z Sports Dallas Primetime. I am your host, Mauricio Rodriguez, streaming with you live every Sunday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central, and catching up with you Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays with quick-hitting videos such as this one. I'm particularly excited about today because there are not many shows where we can see each other and then have a Cowboys game the next day, and because usually we do the Thursday show as a preview, and then we got to wait until Sunday for the actual game. But tomorrow, there is a game for the Cowboys, obviously, because it is Thanksgiving. It is a matchup versus the Giants. And just minutes ago, as of this recording at least, I'm going to post it right after I'm done recording, we got so many injury updates. Brandon Cooks is coming back for Cowboys versus Giants. That feels like an early Christmas present for Cooper Rush because he's been leading an offense. Think about it. Obviously, you miss Dak Prescott, and obviously you miss all of the defensive players that have been out, including the Marcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons for a good while. Trevon Diggs and DaRon Bland have not shared the football field together. But on offense, whenever Cooper Rush came in, back in week 9, when Dak Prescott went down injured, the offense was already banged up because you had no number 2 wide receiver in Brandon Cooks. And I'll be honest, I like Jalen Tolbert, but there are still inconsistencies to his game that I don't know that we can call him a very good number 2 for the Cowboys offense, because he'll have the touchdown catches here and there or the contested grabs here and there, but the consistency of a number 2 is not there at times, and we just saw it with another drop last weekend. Not to mention, he might not be the top route runner on team. So I feel like Brandon Cooks coming back for Cooper Rush is going to be huge, and I think if we're talking about Cowboys players to watch, Brandon Cooks has to be at the top of the list just because I want to see how different the offense looks with him back on the lineup. The guy has not played since week 4. We maybe didn't make a big deal out of Brandon Cooks' situation at the time. We did make a big deal out of it, but mostly because it was a weird situation. It wasn't like Cooks suffered an injury on the football field, and then we all kind of knew what happened. With Brandon Cooks, it was more about the procedure that he underwent, and then the fact that something went wrong with it, and the Cowboys placed him on IR. And even at the time, the Cowboys did not appear to be very worried about the whole thing. He ended up missing 7 games. We did not know it was going to be that kind of an injury. So it's exciting to have Brandon Cooks back on the lineup. Jake Ferguson will be out. Zach Martin will also be out. And then there's another injury that happened that I thought was pretty interesting. Or not injury, but injury update. Asim Richards is going on injured reserve. And I think that's pretty interesting because the Cowboys were only getting started with this quotes competition, unquote, right? Because they were rotating Tyler Guyton and Asim Richards, which was kind of like a weird sequence from Sunday. But now you can forget about that. So you're going to get Tyler Guyton on the field, who is still dealing with a neck injury, by the way. And he immediately, and I'm sorry to do so very improvised, but he immediately also becomes a Cowboys to watch. Because you will get Tyler Guyton on the field once again. And I'll say this about Guyton versus the Commanders. You cannot shrug off 4 penalties like I'm about to. But other than that, he was having a pretty decent game, actually. You look at Tyler Guyton on the field. He was handling his own in pass pro. He was winning in the run game. The thing was the calls. The thing that we cannot get over was the fact that he was called for 4 penalties, and I understand we can scratch the holding because it didn't look like a hold at all, but he still had 3 pre-snap penalties, 2 illegal formations, 1 false start. Now he will get a full game versus the Giants, chances are. The thing, though, is if he's dealing with a neck injury, I worry about Chuma Edoga being the backup at left tackle. hopefully we don't have to see that. Hopefully it's a Tyler Guyton game through and through, and he doesn't get the mental mistakes that have resulted in him being taken off the field over and over again. But yeah, Tyler Guyton. So those are your injury updates. Here are some more. Trevon Diggs, Eric Kendricks, and Nick Vigil, linebacker, are all questionable for this game. And I don't really know what the expectation is for neither of those. So I think we're going to have to wait until tomorrow to really get a clear idea as to who is playing, who isn't playing. But in the meantime, though, let's talk more about this game. On the Giants side of things, you won't get Tommy DeVito, it looks like, because Jordan Renan from ESPN actually tweeted this morning that Tommy DeVito was a long shot to play on Thursday Thanksgiving game versus the Dallas Cowboys. That means it's going to be Drew Lock for the Giants at quarterback. And let's get into some Cowboys to watch. I think one of the biggest storylines for this one will be the cornerbacks. Because do you remember what Malik Nabers did to the Cowboys when they faced him back in week 4? I'll tell you what happened on that game. Malik Nabers was having himself a game. He was having himself a game even against Trevon Diggs. One of the most memorable moments from that game is the Giants lining up, I believe it was on 4th down and short, and having Trevon Diggs right over Malik Nabers in man-to-man coverage. And at that point in the game, it was late. And I remember thinking, if I'm the Giants, I'm going to Nabers. I don't care if it's Trevon Diggs in man-to-man coverage against him. I'm trusting the rookie. And sure enough, the Giants go that route, ends up working for them. I've got the numbers right here for Nabers. He had 12 catches, 115 yards versus the Cowboys in the first game. And we can look at the coverage matchups right here. We can look at the receiver matchups right here from PFF. Malik Nabers had 2 catches on Overshown. He had 1 catch on Leofau, 1 catch on Oruwariji, another on Donovan Wilson, another on Malik Hooker, another on Jordan Lewis, 2 on Trevon Diggs, and one of those went for a first down. I think that's the one that I'm talking about from earlier. He had another catch on Eric Kendricks. He had 2 catches on Andrew Booth Jr. So this tells you several things. This tells you, first and foremost, this is the game where Andrew Booth got benched by halftime. But it also tells you the Giants were moving him around the entire field. They didn't care who was on him, whether it was Diggs, whether it was Andrew Booth, whether it was a linebacker. They found ways to exploit the Cowboys secondary with Nabers on this one. And there wasn't anything the Cowboys could do in that game. It also tells me, boy, I hope Diggs can play, because if we can get Deron Bland, Trevon Diggs, and Jordan Lewis all together for the first time this season, that would be massive against Malik Nabers. Here's the thing, too. Malik Nabers hasn't quite had the perfect game. And as a matter of fact, last weekend was pretty rough for him. He had no catches by the first half. And in his own words, so I'm going to let you in a little Giants gossip here in case you have not kept up with the Giants. There is some drama with Malik Nabers. Like, he's a true number 1 wide receiver. When he doesn't get the ball, he will tell the media about it. And the New York media is not easy. So Malik Nabers, he earns his diva status, but I think it's warranted. Like, Malik Nabers is out there telling the media, ask Brian Dable why I'm not getting the ball. Like, he's being extremely direct. That's the kind of stuff you heard from George Pickens and the Steelers when everything was going south with offensive coordinator Matt Canada, when he was the laughingstock of the NFL. Malik Nabers is telling the media, hey, ask Dable why I'm not getting the ball until it's 30-0. Because that happened last week. Last week, first half went by, and then a little bit of the third quarter, the Giants were down 30-0, and Malik Nabers had 0 targets. So he talks about that. Brian Dable has talked about that. I can tell you Thursday night or Thursday afternoon, he is being targeted. So that's going to be an exciting matchup to watch, I think. The Giants are going to find ways to get Malik Nabers the ball. and the Cowboys are going to have to be ready. As simple as that. Now, fortunately for Dallas, and this is where I get into the title of the video, finally, I'm sorry, 10 minutes into it, I'm sorry for this. But I just like to talk Cowboys, so we go on every tangent that we can go here. But at the end of the day, we're talking Cowboys football, so I hope you're enjoying it. But I'll say this. The Cowboys should be able to get to Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito, whoever is at quarterback, and it's going to be Drew Lock, but still, he hasn't been ruled out, I think. Tommy DeVito hasn't. He won't travel with the team. He didn't practice today, Wednesday, so it's going to be Drew Lock, but I think it's not official yet, so that's why I'm using words like might or should, blah, blah, blah. But I'm telling you this. They're going to get to the quarterback. The Giants have the 21st pass block win rate offensive line in the NFL. They have been widely inconsistent. And Mike Zimmer is having some fun now. I know we've criticized Mike Zimmer throughout the entire year for many well-deserved reasons. But Mike Zimmer, now that you're getting into game scripts that are not I'm dead by halftime, so the opponent can just run on me as much as he wants, Mike Zimmer is getting some of that. I'll call this some of that Dan Quinn type pressure designs where he's trying to make the most out of Micah Parsons. And that was pretty interesting to watch on Sunday versus the Commanders, because what he did was he found ways to make Micah the star of the show on 3rd and long by placing him at defensive tackle. So he wasn't playing on the edge on those obvious passing situations. He was playing inside. Now, if you've been watching Cowboys and if you've been diving into film breakdowns or whatever, you know this isn't particularly new, but there are some wrinkles in there that are pretty exciting, where he will, and Dan Quinn did this too when he was the Cowboys defensive coordinator, but the Cowboys will leave the interior of the offensive line pretty much uncovered, and they'll use these wide alignments by the defensive linemen with these fronts where they've got 3 defensive ends or 3 true defensive ends and Ozo Digisuwa there, and they'll put a lot of stress on the offensive line because they will do different things with the linebackers. So you will get 4 guys down and Micah Parsons inside. And, on the outside, there's another defensive end. So let's just say next to him is Marshawn Neiland. And then they'll have Kendricks and Overshown not necessarily lined up over the line of scrimmage, maybe a few yards behind that, just in the regular traditional linebacker spots. And sometimes they'll blitz one of them. Sometimes they'll blitz the 2 of them, but then they'll do some weird stuff where they'll just like do a stunt even with the linebackers. There was one particular play versus the Commanders that didn't quite work, I think because Overshown fell down, but it was going to be a stunt with the 2 blitzing linebackers, which I thought was very cool. And they're just like taking centers away and isolating Micah on an offensive guard, and they're being so successful with it. I wish I had the tape to show you, but I'm sure someone has broken it down on Cowboys YouTube. Cowboys YouTube is great for film breakdowns. But yeah, man, I feel like Mike Zimmer's defense is finding its stride in several ways. I don't think the Giants are going to pose any threat on the read option game, which is what really hurt them versus the Commanders. So the Cowboys defensively should be fine. But if I'm talking about Cowboys to watch, I'm talking about that Cowboys defensive front in general, spearheaded by Micah Parsons, to really get the Giants quarterbacks uncomfortable. Likely it's going to be Drew Lock. But Micah Parsons is back as he never left. I think you're seeing some of his best football of the year. And if you're a Cowboys fan, kind of like trying to find ways to keep enjoying a 4-7 season where there's little to no playoff hopes, you just got to enjoy guys like Micah Parsons doing amazing things. So yeah, players to watch, give me Micah, but also give me the Marvin Overshown and the way that Mike Zimmer is really taking advantage of his explosiveness, because you're seeing it a lot in the pressure packages that the Cowboys like to throw out. but also Chauncey Golston. Chauncey Golston is dealing a lot of damage on the football field, even just by himself. You're seeing a lot of quality football from Chauncey Golston. And the thing about him is he's going to be a free agent in 2025, isn't he? He's going to be hitting the market. And I don't know if he's going to stay in Dallas or not. It might be too early to tell. He does hit free agency. Chauncey Golston is on the same trajectory, I would say, as Dorrance Armstrong was last year, where you could see Armstrong being good enough to where you're thinking he might get a shot at starting at another NFL team, and he's going to get paid, even if it's not by the Cowboys. I think Chauncey Golston is on that boat. I'm not talking about him becoming one of the highest paid defensive linemen or anything like that, but he is securing himself a future in the NFL with the season that he's putting together, which I think is what happened with Armstrong last year. So I would compare their trajectories quite a lot. And the difference is maybe with Armstrong, you already had seen promising seasons. I think Golston is just on another level this year now that he's gotten much more opportunities. So happy for him. Now, with Lawrence hitting free agency next year for the Cowboys as well, you got to wonder if Lawrence does not return and maybe the Cowboys say, hey, let's get Chauncey Golston another shot. Now, give me 1 second. I'm going to take a sip out of this coffee. I know this is a very Christmassy coffee cup. But before it gets cold, man, I had to take a sip there very quickly. I had to sneak that in somewhere in the show. Other Cowboys to watch, man, I'll say Luke Schoonmaker. And here's the thing. Jake Ferguson is not playing on Thursday. Luke Schoonmaker very quietly, very, very quietly has had some moments for the Cowboys, right? And obviously he had the touchdown catch where he broke wide open versus the Commanders. But I want to see more of him, especially as a blocker. Because when I see Luke Schoonmaker play, where I still see him be straight up bad and inconsistent, is when it comes to blocking. I talked about the Trey Lance packages earlier in the week, where you're talking about, oh, they're getting Trey Lance involved and it's exciting. But when you're doing it in such limited doses as the Cowboys are, the execution has to be close to perfect. And Schoonmaker, when they were at 1st and goal and Trey Lance went in, straight up got destroyed, and that killed the play. People like to knock Trey Lance for it, but it was a Schoonmaker issue more than anybody else on that particular play. He has to be better. He'll get more playing time. Shout out to Brevin Spanford as well, because whenever they throw to Brevin Spanford, it seems like good things happen, in my opinion. So I'm wondering what it's gonna be like there. Princeton Fant also got promoted to the 53-man roster, not as an elevation, but he actually got signed to the 53. So shout out to him. Hopefully we do see some quality football from him. He's likely going to be very involved on special teams. But yeah, those would be my Cowboys to watch. And I'll tell you this, my prediction for the game, and I'm for the first time since week 5, I'm predicting a Cowboys win. For the first time since week 5, I'm predicting a Cowboys win. It feels good. Obviously, the Cowboys did win last weekend, but I took the Commanders. I think the Cowboys beat the Giants. I think this is a bad football team on the other side, and I think the offensive line is not good, and I think the Cowboys pass rush specifically has returned to its usual self. Maybe it's not anywhere close to as dominant as it was under Dan Quinn, but I think the Cowboys can really, really get some pressure going versus Drew Lock, and I think that will make the difference on Thursday as they handle Malik Neighbors. That's the X factor that I think could turn things around. But give me the Cowboys winning on Thanksgiving and improving to 5-7, and suddenly the Cowboys look way too close to the 500 mark, which might not be great for draft purposes, but shows you how long an NFL season can really be. Ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button for me. I hope that you enjoyed the show and enjoy the holidays. I'll be around on Thursday, by the way. So either if you're, with your family or maybe you're not, I'll be around 8 p.m. here to talk to you a little bit about Cowboys. So have a good one, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Bye-bye.